Let's get started. It is now 6:02, and this is the City Council Budget Workshop in the City of Bel Air Beach on June 20th at 6:02 p.m. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Patty, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Frank Banker.
Present.
Councilmember Leslie Notero.
Here.
Councilmember Lloyd Roberts.
Here.
Councilmember Jody Shirley.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Zabel.
Here.
Vice Mayor Glenn Gunn.
Here.
Mayor Dave Gaddis.
Here.
City Manager Len Reeves.
Here.
City Attorney Randy Mora.
Present.
All right, thank you, Patty. We have one item on our agenda tonight, which is to discuss and review the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 budget. Everyone should have brought their draft budgets that were distributed at the June 6th meeting. And let's get started.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
on the roll call, the guy take you out of your position, Kyle.
Mr. Reeves serves as manager through 5 o'clock p.m. on Friday.
Actually, 5:01. Yeah, that's right. He's at 5, and then we've got, for 1 minute, we don't have a city manager.
And I gotta be at 5:05.
Not anyway. All right, so we have two packets here, and what I'm proposing is we start off with City Manager Reeves giving us some instruction on what he has presented us.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's June 6th meeting. We gave you this document, which is the roll-up of the budget. And that's really what we'll be highlighting tonight. We also gave you the high expense, high revenue to low spreadsheet. And then we gave you the detail, which for the most part, I went over it with everyone. Told you that if you have any questions, you can call me. I didn't get any questions to speak of. And this is just detail. If you're, when we're going through the budget, you want to look back and say, okay, well, what did we spend? Just pick one. City Council's budget. What is contributions and donations? Well, there's a listing there that talks about mayor's council and stuff like that. So it's giving you more detail on what that line item is in the budget under 511-492. So that's what this is. So we'll start with page 3. And I'm not going to go through every single page. It's very cumbersome. Page 3, I just wanted to highlight the organizational chart. We've got one new position in there, an office assistant part-time to bring in to City Hall. That's to help out with the administrative functions in the offices. A lot of times, if you come in, you see me, Patty, Laura, or others taking care of the window and the administrative portion, so we're asking for a part-time person to come in and help with that. So that's the only new position. Everything else is, the current budget is the same. Code enforcement is still showing with the sheriff. I will tell you that sheriff's contract has not been updated into this yet, but when we get to code enforcement, I'll explain that it's going to go over $2,000.
So the funding for that office assistant, that starts in one?
Yes, and it's in non-departmental, it's in the non-departmental department.
When can the city begin advertising for that?
Well, you could advertise for it early, but then it wouldn't be effective, the hiring date wouldn't be till October 1st.
Okay, perfect.
Mr. Reeves, can I ask you to get closer to your microphone or speak up a little? I'm struggling to hear you.
Yeah, when they're down here, past, you know. They're better when they're up there.
I understand.
It's how it's set up anyway. Okay. Okay, the next page is page 7, and I just want to highlight a couple things, and as I said, I went over a lot of this with all of you. The next critical date for the city is July 1st. The property appraiser will get the final taxable value. I think everyone's aware that the taxable value went up 12.85%. So next Friday, or July 1st, a week from Friday, the property appraiser will give the final certification. And then on the 18th of July, City Council will have a second budget workshop and a special meeting to set the tentative millage rate. And when you talk about setting the tentative millage rate, it's not the final millage rate, but what we've done over the past few years, we've recommended that you use 2.0394. Keep the current millage rate the same, and this budget's built on the current millage rate. Because you could raise it higher, but you could say like 2.13 as an example. But whatever that millage rate is set at, you can't raise it higher later, like in September when we have the final budget hearings. So, but over the last couple of years, we've left it at the 2.0394. So you can lower it, but you can't raise it any higher.
What's the county recommend
What?
for the millage rate? We're at the higher rate right
No, the county doesn't, excuse me, man.
Mr. Banker, can you pull your microphone
I'm
closer
sorry.
to?
now. I thought we were at the higher rate right now. So
No.
no.
Oh, you're talking about the rollback rate.
Yeah,
We're
rollback
talking
rate.
about two different things. So what'll happen after the county does the thing on July 1st, there will be some numbers put into the trim form, which is with the Department of Revenue, and that will give us those rollback numbers and rollback rate at that time. So you'll see that, but I would recommend that you keep the 2.0394 setting your tentative millage rate. If later on you decide to lower it, that's to a rollback rate or somewhere in between, that's up to you. But I wouldn't make it lower than the current millage rate.
The initial increase of the proposed rate is astronomical
Right.
for our community.
Yeah.
I am all for doing the tentative millage rate and keeping it the same, but I would like for us to beat this up. I've already seen several things that are questionable, not that I think that they're seeping, I just say they're questionable. And I think that this council should be able to correct some of the overspending that's proposed, and we would be very close. With the tax increases and going to a rollback rate, we may actually be able to do it, but it's going to take a lot of hard work on this budget to actually make that happen. So that, I just wanted to throw that out there because I think it's doable. It just looks like it's very possible. But we'll see where the chips fall.
Okay. So then in September, you'll have two meetings, and that's where you make the official millage rate at those two meetings. You'll have a first reading on the 7th of September, the proposed millage rate, and then the final one is on the 19th. So those dates are really the critical dates. There's some other things that have to be done, submitting to the state when you do your final millage. If you'll move to page 9, it's got the millage rates over the last few years, and as you can see, the dollar amount changed to 82 million increase over the prior year, 12.85%. And on page, we'll go to page 17. This budget is showing that increase in the millage rate will be $160 $62,520. That's what the current taxable value millage rate, leaving it as is, would produce, 162,000 more in operating revenue. Everything else is pretty, as far as revenue goes, it's pretty status quo. Not much of that has changed. As an example, the utility service taxes, there's a little increase there. But overall, most of the items in revenue are stabilized. Rental registration, that's something we talked about earlier. That's what we've been running pretty much, I think. Trying to look to see if there's any other. The other thing that we've got to look at is there's going to probably be a cost increase in the trash, which I'll talk about a little later. He has not given us that number yet. The contract has 4%, but Waste Management is going to ask for more than that 4% because of the gas and stuff. So they are going to come in with a proposal. As I said earlier, we did have an increase in the sheriff of 5.1%. So that's a cost that's going to be absorbed into this budget.
Just a quick question. Just attended a class last weekend, and it came up in a particular conversation briefly on waste management. And right now we have a truck that comes around, they do a great job, and we have 2 or 3 gentlemen or ladies that work on the truck. I'm just curious, which is more expensive for waste management? That option, or the option where the truck comes around and it's got the arm and they provide the garbage cans? Is that even an option for our?
Well, our current contract doesn't have that option.
Okay.
So this contract is up in '23, so you'll be going out, actually, I think next year, to bid the trash again for the following years.
Did they tell you what are the increases for? Because if they run on natural gas, most of those trucks.
Mr. Gresham, who's the contact, has contacted me and told me that he would be getting back with me because he was warning me that their contract, which he currently says, you can get a 4% increase. He was warning me that they are going to ask for more than the 4% because how it's set up in the contract is a CPI maximum of 4%. But they were going to ask for additional monies because of the fuel.
Have we actually put that out to like Republic to see if they could match or do better?
Well, you're in a contract right now.
Yeah, I'm talking about if the contract blows out to like 8% or something like
Well, you have a binding contract with them. The only thing I guess you could probably do is say, I'm going to hold you to 4%. I would imagine you could do that. That's more of a legal question that I would.
Just as a reminder though, the residents pay for that on their water bill. It's not a direct charge to the city, just kind of
But
reminds. It's a pass through on the water
that. It
bill.
does reconcile back to the resident and
Right.
to the city. So
Well-
I understand because when the first checks I was right, I didn't understand anything. And you took the time to explain it all to me. But it is when the residents get the residents always pay. Okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if we're getting a 4% increase, that's fine, all right? But if we're getting an 8% increase, maybe we should be looking.
Should look at it.
And when does the contract expire? Will we go out to bid again?
23.
The end of
it's
23?
September 30th, I believe, 23.
Okay.
Can we hold them to 4% legally?
Well, legally, that would be a question for the city attorney, but
Let's see.
that's what the contract says.
I'd have to see what the contract says concerning the ability to hold. I can tell you that, as a general matter, solid waste procurement is a time-intensive process. It's not something that's done hastily. It's typically done a year and a half out. I imagine that whomever may be your next manager will probably begin that process regardless. I understand that doesn't address this fiscal year and the charges you're discussing, but I'd have to look at the contract to answer your question.
Question regarding those payments. I've signed the checks too, but when we were in the class last week, some municipalities have went to charge cards where they can get the cash back, and specifically they talked about using the charge card to pay their garbage fees in full. Is there any way that we can do that, or is that allowed under the contract?
Well, the current contract, it's billed on the water and sewer bill, as is the stormwater fee. So, I don't really understand paying
Well,
with the credit
We're,
card.
yeah, right now, I mean, we're signing the checks, correct? We sign checks. Getting rid of the check is going by credit card. Municipalities are actually using charge card with cash back on them.
Oh, yeah.
So that they're earning fees, I mean, those are large costs. You can recoup, $10,000, $20,000 in the large cases.
Would Waste Management charge us a fee to use a credit card?
Some do, some don't.
That's why I asked about it. It's in the contract. We need to make sure it's not in there for us.
Are you
Yeah.
saying that your own personal residents use it?
No, the cities actually will have a charge card specifically for all of the city expenses. And as they use it for whatever services they're buying, they're receiving cash back on that. And that cash can be now that's generated into the general fund for use, wherever.
Right, but the city never pays the
Right.
waste management bill. That all comes from the resident personally. That's why.
No, we pay the bill. It's,
We get
it's,
reimbursed.
Because I signed one of those checks. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah.
city signs the check.
Just, Rod Saganik, Donato, I think what you guys are referring to being a commercial banker, it's called a purchasing card.
Yeah, sorry.
So a lot of municipalities will have a purchasing card, and with that purchasing card, based on volume, there's a rebate. Typically, that rebate kicks in after about $1 million annual spend. But just to clarify, that's what
That's it.
you guys are referring to. So,
While you're here, can I ask a question? So, many of these expensive services are charging a fee if you want to use a credit card. So what's happening with these utilities such as garbage service?
Yeah, so it all depends on how the contract is negotiated. So the attorney can probably review the contract to see what happens. I know, like with a lot of corporations that always wanted to switch to maybe paying their cellular bill, and AT&T said no based on, with most large companies, AT&T negotiates a rate that they won't allow a credit card, or if you do allow a credit card, you got to pay the fee, the 2% or whatever the fee is. So that's that's what you have to look at differently. Is it going to cost us 2% to run it through a MasterCard? And you're going to make about, 50 basis points back. So you'd be in a losing proposition if you actually paid the credit card fee. But I think it goes into part of your negotiation. So when you go to negotiate next year with Waste Management and any other vendors in the city, you can negotiate.
Cities has that information. They've had cities that do that currently. So we just need to contact them and ask, hey.
And they may have a bank with a statewide program. They do a great job bringing bank solutions. Otherwise, I can, I'll get my citizen advisory committee together and we'll run a process for you.
That would be excellent. Yes, Vice Mayor?
I mean, it's a good idea, and not to be lost, even if it's not applicable to the large utility purchases, but the government uses credit cards a lot.
We do it all the
Office
time.
supplies, travel.
We get a lot of money
bills,
back.
and a lot of money comes back to the government through credit cards, and it makes transactions very easy. The counter becomes very easy, because all you get is a monthly statement for office supplies, coffee, or whatever your bill is on. It's a great idea, that just shouldn't be charged.
Definitely something to look into, that's for sure. Mr. Reeves, would you like to
Okay.
continue?
Okay, so we'll go to page 18 if there's no questions. This is more the revenue at the top, more of the revenues such as the rentals within the community center. Those have increased over the past couple of years. I think Laura's done a great job of that, following up and speaking to these people. We've had the facility this year, it's even increasing more. We had some months that we had no weekend dates, so it's a positive thing. She's doing a great job with that. The other things such as assessment searches, that's just stuff when the house sells. Site plan review fees, Last year, or in 2021, during COVID, the review fees went bananas because everybody was remodeling or doing something. But that faucet has slowed down a little bit now. So the budget number there is about 15,000. Miscellaneous revenue could be in anything, realistically. You get revenue for like the sale of a shirt or things of that nature. Then you go down to the next section. That's a listing of the expenses by department, which we'll go through those in somewhat of a detail. The thing that you might want to look at 380, which is just above those departments, 380.200. In the proposed budget, we'll be taking $332,672 out of the reserve fund to balance the budget. So that's just under the current budget. So if you went to the rollback rate, just as an example, you'd be taking 400 and almost 500,000 out. So just so you understand how that works. Okay, going to the pages after that, those are the city clerk budget on page 20. As I said, you can look in the detail if there's any questions there or any things that you think we need to adjust. Hasn't went up, in any great amount of money. I am recommending a 5% pay increase for all employees, and this is the first employee that would. So, but pretty much it's her expenses are pretty close to what they were this year.
But that's because we're not having an election this year.
Right. Yeah, if we had an election, it would have gone up. Probably last year, I want to say it was 3,500.
Approximately, yes.
Yeah. So there's no election plan this year.
So the salary is really the only increase.
Yes, for the most part, yes. Salary, you're going to have a little bit of increase in insurance. That's pretty much standard every year.
And I'm a little confused about the insurance. Insurance is going up like crazy everywhere. Why isn't it going up for you?
Well, we have minimal employees, and it's pretty stabilized. There's actually, right now, there's only 3, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you've got a new employee in Public Works, but there's traditionally been 4 employees on the city's insurance. And I'll just give you an example. If you paid my insurance, you'd be paying, similar to what Patty's is, $19,000 a year. You're paying
$1,600 a month. About $1,600
Yeah,
a month, which
for
is
me.
pretty, well, you're
But-
singleton.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you're giving me $600 to take care of my insurance and things. So that's been a benefit all in my term. Kyle's doing the same thing. His wife has a policy, so that's a benefit to the city. That's $10,000 that Kyle's giving back to the city, and or will be. Well, he is already, so that kind of gives you.
That brought up one question, and it goes right to the heart of the discussion about the future city manager on page 22. It's showing us a cap of 106,000. We cannot exceed that. I thought we were talking about potentially increasing it, which would call for changes in the budget. You wanted to know about how high can we go with a new city manager? What's the upper end of our budget? And this is showing me our upper end is no more, we can't pay the new city manager any more than 106K.
We're in the middle of going through this budget, and we will have hired someone before we actually set the final budget.
I was going to say, that's also a proposed budget number I mean, I don't think you'll also find $200,000 in here for a stormwater bid increase either, because it's projected in here, so the money has to be allocated from somewhere.
Okay, no, I'm new to your process, so.
Yeah, what's been established in the budget, it's based on what I get paid and the 5% additional. I will tell you, if you're looking at page 22, your insurance cost is probably going to go up once you hire a city manager.
It's all proportional.
Yeah, but it's some proportion.
I was gonna say that's a key point though, when you write it down, hey, you know, we need to review the
Right.
proposed
Yeah.
city manager budget. Because is that gonna, and obviously that's gonna be situational with who you hire and what his credentials are.
Definitely, we'll have to come back to it.
But if you hired Kyle and gave him the 5% raise, which we just gave him a pay raise today, we're still saving what, $5,000 off of this?
Nice pitch. Nice pitch.
I think that's kind of early since we are trying to do a thorough due diligence approach to hiring a new city manager.
Correct. We'll have that conversation on Thursday.
Don't forget Thursday.
So Len, just one quick question. I know in my previous life, when we were going through budgets, if I had, for example, this is on page 21,
Okay.
where we have the operating expenses there. So if I had an adopted budget in 21-22 of 27,000, but I only spent 16, let's summarize actual adopted budget, yeah. So I would be asked, why am I increasing that line item, by another percentile?
This budget's based on council members attending, Patty makes this budget, and it's, if you go back to the detail, it's based on projections. As an example, you just went to EMO.
Right.
It's projecting 3 attendees go to EMO.
Okay.
Okay. It's projecting 2 attendees go to EMO Advanced. All of that is built into here. The only thing that really majorly increased in this was the video taping, because that number has increased, but we are going to be talking to Victor. Actually, Kyle and I are trying to get a meeting with him before I leave to resolve, since the Zoom seems to be working pretty good, do we need to videotape plus the Zoom? You're spending, depending on the hours of the meeting, that's how he's paid. So it may be better, now that we've got a more robust system, to say, well, we'll just use this as the videotape, and maybe hire Victor as the moderator of that, which Kyle is doing right now. So that's a discussion. So how it's built is it's based on what the city clerk is projecting, mostly things that you go do, like EMO or the Florida League of Cities or the Suncoast League of Cities. There's some funding in here for that. There's some expenses in here, Florida League of Mayors. Sometimes the mayors wanted to be a member of it, other times the mayor said no, I don't, so don't pay the dues.
Okay.
The Florida Beaches and Shores, that is something that was very important for beach renourishment. And, I know that some of the previous council members have went to that, because it's a kind of a coalition to promote the beach renourishment. So that's kind of how it's.
Okay. And like you had said earlier, Mr. Mayor, that, we can look at all these different line items. Again, I know on one of my previous slides, the governor would just say, I want everything cut 5%. And that's tasking sometimes. Like in Kyle's world, when you're talking about cutting maintenance 5%, everything's getting older, the maintenance doesn't go down.
That's right.
So to be asked to cut maintenance 5% is often very challenging. Some of these things, we may be able to get creative, look at some of these things like, travel to the like the classes we just went to.
Right.
But I think, and there is value in going in those in person.
Very much
You'll
so.
meet other people there, make contacts, all that neat stuff. But some of these things, we may be able to see what's available online in lieu of possible travel and redeem and all that kind of neat stuff. So just some things to
But
look at.
also, we'll have the same classes that are closer. They generally have a Tampa class.
Okay.
And they have in Orlando also. You went to the first one, which was in Jacksonville. But they do have others, and sometimes they come around.
Okay.
812 is just south of Sarasota.
Right.
Yes, sir, Mr. Gunn.
You raise a valuable point, and I'll make an observation here. We're going through a multi-million-dollar budget right now, and we're still giving lip service to go reviewing the strategic plan. You don't know what the priorities are, you don't know what the assumptions are. That would have been very clear and would help us go through the budget process if we had to sit down and spend some time saying, do these priorities still match what we want to do, and how do these budget line items align with the strategic priorities? What are the assumptions? What's going to happen to the economy? What's going to happen to property values, the cost of infrastructure, stuff like that? So we're kind of going through a budget right now, kind of like feeling our way through this thing.
I think the goal of tonight is to go through this and then go through the fine details and then pick on things that we want to debate further and see where they do align. But this is pretty much the introduction, and it takes a while to get through just this to see what the city manager is proposing. Once we go through this, we can certainly start debating, all right, what do we need to change and what do we like, what do we dislike, and what does not work with the strategic plan. That's my 2 cents on it.
I just think that process is backwards. I think you do that before you go through a budget rather than come back and say, okay, well, let's make the strategic plan fit.
The city budget is always proposed by the city manager, and then it's up to us to go through it and decide whether we like something about it or not.
Okay. 23, page 23, that's the finance department. There is an increase to buy some accounting software that's proposed. We're still, we put a budget number of $20,000 in there. We're still reviewing different software programs. And it could be that after we go down the road a little further, that maybe we keep what we got with the QuickBooks, but we're looking for a more related government software program as opposed to a business program like QuickBooks is. So there's a $20,000 stipulation. Other than that, the department really is negligible, other than the 3% increase for the accountant that is in his agreement.
I did notice that you also had QuickBooks listed in the budget whenever you drill down into the departmental detail. So,
Yeah.
so both pieces of software are in there, and that's something I'm sure we'll discuss as we get down to the.
Yeah, we've talked to a couple vendors already, but we haven't drilled them down to what is this really going to cost us, because I can tell you, the one guy that gave us the budget number a few months ago, which is the $20,000, when we've talked to a couple other vendors, it's been significantly more than that. And at this point, we may need to put a savings account together.
Is there any reason we cannot work with other communities in sharing resources? This might be one of those things where the economies of scale would definitely affect us, where we can cooperate with the other beach communities in using the same system, just increase the number of users.
I don't know how they would relate that, really, because it's licensed by address. I don't know how that.
No, you can license by organization, and if we have an organization, we may be able to currently license under that and have a lower per user cost.
I don't know if that's even possible with
I
the
mean, we do that. We do large, I mean, my organizations are millions of users. So there's no reason we can't with other communities that are about the same size. They're using the same functions, receivable, billable, account generation.
Well, unfortunately, around here, every one of them's got something different. Some of them are outdated. And
It's
that's
time maybe to talk.
Yeah, so, and I don't know how the software companies would handle that. So that's a question maybe we could ask one of the vendors.
I can tell you for the size of this organization, $20,000 sounds like a lot of money,
Yeah,
Yeah.
way over the top.
well, we've got some numbers of $50,000 for the size of this organization.
Yeah, software guys, we're debating, it's
Yeah.
like you're way over state.
Okay, I'm liking QuickBooks more and more every
Possible.
minute.
No, we're looking at
Okay.
18.
Are there like one or two or three things off the top of your head that we're not able to get from QuickBooks?
Well, it's more a user program to build stuff, and that's what the accounting people that we have are doing. They're building, it's not like a, how do I say it? I'll use it as budgeting. It's not a government budgeting software.
Do we have a cost for how much they're charging you for that add-on? I mean, this may be an affordable cost compared to a new software program.
What?
Having whatever they're doing to QuickBooks may be more affordable than buying and training
Well,
the system.
we are talking to QuickBooks about the possibility of upgrading to a cloud-based, and hopefully it's a better system, but those are things that we're in the process of doing, so it's going to get adjusted one way or the other.
Anything else on page 23 you'd like to discuss?
No, because everything else is pretty stable. The IT, most of that is computers, software, hardware, the things that we have to do, like the internet, we pay for that. Contractual services, we have a gentleman, Dave Palak, that's kind of our IT guru. If we have a problem, he helps us with that. There is some money set aside to update computers, and we rotate that within the city. So that's pretty much what that is, and as you see, it's pretty much stabilized.
Would you refresh my memory, Mr. Reeves? What made us jump? I can't remember why we jumped so high on contractual services between fiscal year ending 2021 and 2022. Because that budget stuff.
Contractual services, I don't know what happened from 20 to 21. I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately.
It was a huge jump, and I thought maybe that was a temporary increase, and it's continuing to grow, but this time it's slower. So whatever happened, it's still
I'll have to get back to you.
That was on page 24.
Yeah, page 24, and it's in technology. The domain name registrations, that's an annual fee that we pay. The internet, right now, we pay a little over $100 a month for internet.
Domains are-
Huh?
Yeah, domain costs are very.
Yeah. Constant Contact, we pay a fee to the web host, the people that host our website. The consultant, that's David. We could spend that, we could not spend it. Just depends if there's anything. Now, when you get down to 517.0521, those things are the Microsoft licenses, the Norton Trend Micro, and we've put $1,000 in there for cloud storage to take some of our stuff and put it in the cloud as opposed to trying to keep it here on a server.
That brings up, I mean, just looking ahead quickly, the printing and binding. I thought the whole purpose of the iPad initiative was to basically to slash the printing and binding costs.
Eventually, that's what the plan is. You'll get your agenda online and you won't get a paper copy. That's what the intent was. But we're transitioning to that slowly.
So the 3,800 assumes that we'll be still going through transition all of next year, or say halfway through, we're finishing the transition?
I would think, you know.
I'm just saying there could be a potential halving of that
Yeah.
cost.
Okay, the next one is non-departmental, page 25. You're already ahead of me in printing and binding, you're on the next page. Okay. The salaries are here. This includes the part-time position, that's why it went up about $20,000.
Lynn, I have a question. Who is the mileage or the car allowance for?
It is for Laura, and she does the bank deposits.
$1,200 worth?
Yeah. She goes every day to the bank. It works out, you know, it's $100 a month. It works out, if you think about it, it's
1 gallon of gas.
about that.
Are we handling that much cash that you need daily deposits? I mean, $20,000 a day, I could see it, but 5, 10.
It depends on the day. Some days it's $10, and the next day it's $2,000. Some days it's $20,000. It depends.
Who is getting, who's actually doing that job right now, since in this current year, there is no budget for her mileage reimbursement?
I was doing it most of the time. And because I've been gone in and out, I've given her a car allowance to, you know, I've adjusted her things so she's got something this year for a few months. What, well, it'll be like the last 4 months of the year.
We talk about maybe reducing the frequency of those.
So, and she goes other places that she uses her car for. She goes and gets duplicate copies of prints, things of that nature out of the office. Let's see. We did increase the legal services, but in this budget, but we may want to adjust that backwards a little bit. We haven't had only a couple months of the new situation, and that's really going to depend on, you know, keeping the money at what it is. Professional services other, and that's if we want to hire a consultant to do something outside of our normal engineering things. As an example, we put that as a placeholder. A year ago, we spent $1,000. It could be something like, one year we hired a lady to do the personnel policy and rewrite the job descriptions. And we paid for that. So we've just kept that as a placeholder. Typically, it's never all spent. Let's see.
Yes, sir, Mr. Gunn.
How many other placeholders do we have, just roughly? I mean, this is kind of like a, you had placeholder money, well, you know you're not really going to use it, so guess what, I got money in the budget that I can move over here for something else, so
Well,
why don't you
we-
just schedule it as a contingency rather than a placeholder to say, if something comes up, we bring it before the council and we authorize you to take contingency money out of.
you could do that. You could do that. You could say, no, we're not going to put any money in.
Okay, so the question is
There-
how many other
there-
places
no.
do we have placeholder money and, I mean, what's the bottom line of all of that?
For the most part, there is no other placeholder in here. This is based on expenses that we have, and, you know, as an example, an estimate of the insurance increase, the repairs and maintenance, things of that nature are things that are happening. So there aren't, that's only a placeholder because at various times during the year, the council has said, and it happened with the, I'm going to use the personnel lady. The council that year said, I want this person to look at this. One time the council said, I want to, what was that? Oh, the grants. Council asked for an outside consultant to come in and tell us if we were eligible for grants. So, I mean, you could reduce it.
Yeah, so I get that, so I guess I understand where you're going. Hey, this is the trend. The previous year we spent $1,000 and then we have a proposed of 10,000, 10 times that. So if you had a footnote down here explaining what you projected the increased cost is going to be, that's fine, I can understand it. But otherwise, you go with some incremental value. Yeah, I see stuff going up 10, 15, 20%.
Mm-hmm.
We could adjust it down, I'm fine with that.
That's what I was referring to earlier about the challenges that I was exposed to.
Yeah.
Where somebody would say, hey, you only spent 1,000, now you're asking for 10, we're not giving it to you. So, anyway, yeah, like you said, we can review it.
Sure.
I have two questions at the bottom, 190530, parking meter expenses, I thought those were all purchased, or was this a,
Those are maintenance,
Okay,
we have
maintenance.
maintenance contracts with them, and there are some costs that, you know, as a park breaks, we have to pay for something.
okay, got that. And then the library services, this is the reimbursement to citizens? Well,
Yeah,
we
two-
budgeted that, how much have we actually spent?
Well, I can't tell you where we're at this year. You can see 2 years ago, it used to be we paid 100%.
Right.
And the council, 3 years ago, said, no, we're going to pay 50%. Well, I can tell you that upset a lot of residents. And I guess some people decided, because previously, we were spending $12,000, $13,000 a year when we were giving them the full $100 reimbursement. When we cut it, as you can see, we cut it in half, $6,500. Last 2 years ago, we spent $3,000 of that.
So are we reimbursing 50% or 100%?
50%.
Okay, so it's still, right, so
Yeah.
some council members.
Yeah.
Change that.
Yeah, when we were,
So
it was
yeah.
100%, we were reimbursing about 130 residents.
And so right now, we're, I mean, at 50%, we're pushing out, you said.
A year and a half ago, during the pandemic, we put out basically 58 residents. That's who came in and wanted reimbursed for their
So dollar amount?
$2,900.
And then we
What's it?
forecast is 65, so I mean, that's a potential area to look at.
Yeah.
If you're keeping the same percentage.
But, I mean, right now, it did tail off. We had a lot, we did take a lot of, Patty can tell you too, we took a lot of indigestion from residents about the council reducing it.
But now the changes were made, we're a couple
Yeah,
years in.
we're a couple
so
years.
we're gonna complain now.
You still, well, no, you still get complaints.
I think it was a good move though, because how many people, obviously, 50% again were coming in to say, no, it's free money, I'll get a library card.
They
And
had
never
no
used
skin.
it.
Never use
I
it.
know people who do that.
They had no skin.
That's-
I would like to see an audit from the library to see how many of our residents are actually using it.
Can that be done?
I don't know if,
That's a good idea.
I don't know if you could, you'd have to have some kind of, I don't know how they handle the library cards. Do they assign it to Bel Air Beach or, because what we require is you as a person go in individually, pay your $100, bring us the receipt, we'll give you $50
There's a
back.
scan,
They're
you
actually
get the barcode,
Yeah.
and they just go by zip code, say, look, Punia zip code 33786, give me the number. It's okay, you got 20 active cards.
And they could go to 2 or 3 different libraries. They can go to Clearwater, they can go to Largo, where's another library? They could go to Seminole.
Okay.
So,
If they're paying the money up front,
yes,
and then
We
we're reimbursing.
send them a check for
their half, then
$50.
they're definitely doing something at the library.
yeah. Yeah, and that may be where Vice Mayor's talking about, it dropped from 130 to 58. You know, well, I'm not doing this, I'm not,
That might be because of COVID, they didn't want to go in.
that could be. We don't really, this will be this year, once we get through it, will be the first. And what they do is they renew them throughout the year, so the
That would
number
be an
now.
interesting number, just, I mean, it's not that much in the scheme of the budget, but just to see where we're at right now,
Yeah.
how much have we spent on that.
Okay, we can find that out. Library reimbursement, I'll find out. Nothing else really on that page, unless there's a question. Then we go to page 27. This is the code enforcement budget. And we set it up for a 4% increase. It's 5.1%. This is for 1,040 hours a year, which is 20 hours per week. I don't know where the council's at with this. I think 20 hours a week is a little excessive. I've said that before. And if you look at your reports recently, the activity is not, there's not 20 items happening every day.
I think he's proven that there's a new sheriff in town, and he's become very efficient, and while others have wisened up. Mr. Roberts.
I did speak with Lynn about something he had proposed about a year ago, or maybe, I don't know the exact date, regarding moving it back to Laura. So from a cost-cutting standpoint, especially considering that we're hiring the half-time person to come in and help with the administrative tasks, I did briefly talk to her to see what her thoughts were, and it sounded like she would be amenable to that, as long as we were able to bring an additional office staff person on board. And again, Lennon told me that he had proposed that before, and the current leadership at that time didn't want to go in that direction, although it was a cost savings.
Yes.
So we're looking for cost savings. And again, when I was talking to some of the citizens around here, unsolicited, more than several people voiced to me that they would prefer the previous individual, that being Laura, as opposed to the sheriff deputy. Just their opinion.
Well, I was on that council when we voted to keep the sheriff's department in there. A couple of reasons. Laura doesn't have a badge. She can't enforce the law by, when the sheriff goes up and starts questioning a resident, and he's not getting the truth, he says, I'm going to re-question you, but now you may be under felony law if you're lying to us. And then the truth usually comes out. I think we get a big bang for our buck by keeping it with the sheriff department. I've talked to a lot of residents too, they love seeing the sheriff.
Different opinions.
I don't think sheriff should be questioned at all. He has no right or authority to question any citizen, period, unless suspected of a crime, not a violation of crime.
Well, if they're in violation of the ordinance, it is a crime.
Not rising to the level that would hold up in court.
I
I would tell the sheriff to backs in.
Well, you can, and then it'll go to the next proper procedure. But what happens when you just have a regular city employee doing it?
Let's all go back and forth. Ms. Shirley Gray.
Yeah, I'm in total support of looking at alternatives to the sheriff being, doing code enforcement. I think the current deputy is doing a great job, but in the past, I've never been in support of having the sheriff knocking on someone's door because the grass is too high. And I'm a big proponent of code enforcement, but I think there's a way to handle it with residents, and I don't think the sheriff is necessarily the most effective way to handle it.
Mr. Goodman.
I've been a proponent of a sheriff showing up in uniform, but I'm not sure it's a necessarily effective way to do it. I think there are other ways. The city manager proposed reorganizing it, and what the vote came down to, the pushback had nothing to do with the badge. It had everything to do with personalities and the person who was involved in the job at the time. That's where the pushback was. And, arguments were made about, hey, Let's have a law enforcement guy there. Let's have the city code enforcement person do it, which is more cost beneficial. We thought we could do the job. The city managers watched it both ways, and he proposed a reorganization that was going to save the city money. And it involved pushback on, hey, we can't get rid of that deck. That's the background.
And I'm going to correct you on that because I was the swing vote on that topic. And the main reason, the only reason why I did not vote to bring it back in-house was because the only option we were given was Laura to be the code enforcement officer. And I will stand behind this. I don't believe that she's the right person for that job. I don't have anything against her. I just think that someone, if we're going to do this, I would like to see someone else other than Laura do it, because she was doing that in the past, and there was obviously a reason why we even considered changing and outsourcing those services. So for whatever reason, if it was a management issue, or if it was the person, or just something was, the combination was not correct. So I would be more than happy to bring it back in the house, but it's going to have to be someone else before I vote that way.
Mr. Mayor, when Laura was doing it, was she doing it 7 days a week like we have our deputy now? He coordinates his schedule.
I don't remember the details because we've outsourced for.
No, she wasn't doing 7 days. Well, he's not doing 7 days either.
Well, no, what I'm saying, you'll see him on a Saturday, you'll see him on a Sunday.
Okay, she was doing some Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay.
But, I mean, he's not here every Saturday.
No, I didn't say that. I mean, he rotates it, which is good.
Yeah, you have to look at the cost. Next year is going to be $50.49 an hour, which translates into about $54,000. Because when I got the number right. So I guess with the 4% upgrade, we covered the cost in this budget. But I'm not proposing doing either or. What I'm saying is, I don't think you need code enforcement 20 hours a week.
Didn't our deputy save a life too because of the CPR training?
Not that I'm aware of.
I thought they did.
Not that I know. I don't know.
We have a comment from a citizen.
So real quick, so what is Laura's involvement? Because I know she is involved, still, like the code enforcement person goes out there and writes something up and then turns it in, right?
Yeah.
She takes it from
You
there.
want to do that first?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's take this comment first and then we'll get back.
John Hanzik, 22nd Street. I'm in favor of retaining the contract for code enforcement. You may want to adjust the hours. I want to give you a personal experience about a one-on-one with the current code enforcement officer. Earlier in the spring, I had my flat roof replaced with a sloped flat roof. Had the permit. There was a dump trailer in my driveway, had the contractor's name on it, but the gentlemen who were doing the work used the personal vehicles, didn't have any signage to include the name of the company and the license of the company. The officer stopped. He knew me from delivering CAC packets and so forth, and we had a chat. And he said, "You got a permit?" I kind of laughed and I said, "Yes, sir, I do." Took it over to him. And anyway, his demeanor towards the contractors was polite. It was professional. And I'm going to emphasize non-confrontational. It's all about how you approach people. His predecessor was the same way. And I've been observing since we've been getting the monthly reports on code enforcement, the increase in red tag permits unauthorized, unpermitted work in this community. I'm standing here telling you, if you want to cut the hours, fine. Don't stop using the deputy. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, back to you, Mr. Roberts.
Well, I was asking about when the baton is handed off from the code enforcement officer.
Okay.
Currently Laura, she has several things she does with that.
Yes, yeah, the sheriff does not provide administration for code enforcement.
Okay.
They basically bring in as an example of what they call Frank, if I'm going to send him a letter and tell him his palm tree in the front needs trimming, then all the code guy does is tell him the address and where it's at, and then Laura writes up the letter with the types it and prepares it, mails it out. Magistrate hearings, same situation. She does all that. She does the code liens every month. She does the update on that stuff.
Okay.
So she does all the administrative work and maintains the files. That's what she does.
Mr. Goodman.
Code enforcement's made some strides and improvements and some things, but only twice in recent history have we really ever gone in and reduced the data. How long tickets are staying open, what are the major areas that are being affected by code enforcement. We don't know if we're getting better or worse in code enforcement, and it's time we need to sit down and come up with a focus group or something and say, what is it we want out of code enforcement, and how do you know if you're getting better or worse? Because that may drive the ability for some hybrid thing. Maybe for short term we try reducing the number of hours of a badge, working with increasing the hours for Laura and see what happens there. Something in between, some hybrid thing. But until you know whether you're getting better or worse with code enforcement, it's kind of subjective.
Anyone else on this topic? Go ahead, Mr. Reeves.
Okay. The next one we already really talked about, the garbage and trash. There again, it's a 4% increase that's in here. We haven't got those final costs that they're going to recommend, and I will get with the city attorney and give him a copy of the contract and let him take a look and see what his thoughts are on what our limitations are. Waste management, and I think everyone here would say it does a great job. They pretty much take anything and everything. And when we went through the contractual cycle in 2018, they were the higher bidder, but the city maintained them because they were very happy with them. So that's just
And I'm going to make a comment on the automated grabber arm that lift, or grab arms that lift the waste bins up. I think that would require us to rent singular bins. We would have to obtain a standard. And also the luxury of being able to just put anything on the curb and suddenly magically disappears at 10 o'clock on a Monday or Thursday, that would go away also.
Yes.
It would require everyone to take things physically to the dump, where today we don't have to worry about that. So these are things to consider.
Yeah, that's a good point, because we all have shrubbery, and look down any street, there's piles and piles and piles. So
Machine's not going to pick that up. It takes human beings.
There's one person in that truck with a control arm, he's not getting out, like you said.
Yeah, and I would say to that effect, when it's the control arm type situation, they'll have a bin for trash, and they'll have a bin for recycling. If you want an extra bin for trash, you're going to pay an extra fee for that. And I don't think you're going to get like.
Look at my friend.
Yeah. Well, even when I lived next door to Frank, I trim my trees, and I'd have a pile out here like this, and guess what? It's come Monday morning,
My pile was bigger.
Boyd Roberts, you got a comment?
I was just thinking back where previously, we had the truck come by with the arm, and I'm pretty confident we did put debris out there. It just had to be no bigger than 4 feet. It was that type of deal. I was never up when the people came by and did it typically, so I don't know how they got rid of it. But it was gone, just like the garbage can. So I don't know what the rules are on that.
Can I ask you a question? When do you expect to hear back from Waste Services?
I left a message for him today because I hadn't heard from him. Because he talked to me before I left and said he was going to be getting back with me with the numbers. That's why I'm trying to push that number situation.
Well, Mr. Mayor, when you're talking about by the curb, this is about 7 years ago, because I was only here, I've been here 8. Waste Management told the citizens of this town that they had to bundle their palm branches and everything like that. I think that lasted 3 weeks because no one was bundling.
No, it does not happen.
Right.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, they are an excellent service. I mean, and the guys on those trucks are excellent.
And whenever they come around at Christmas time, I hope everyone remembers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're great.
But no, you raised a good point about the way.
Yeah, they may not be so great if they jack the rate way up, but let's just wait and see what happens, right? Any other discussion on this page?
Okay, page 29, this is Public Works, and there again, I proposed the 5%. The car allowance is in there for whoever the Public Works person is for next year. If it's Kyle, then his car allowance is in there. Going down,
Wait, hold on 1 second. You said the car allowance and what is the flex pay? You said that was for
insurance.
insurance?
Yeah.
Okay. And so we really don't have maybe it's in the detail, but do we have a breakout of that in the fine?
On the flex pay,
The flex pay versus car allowance.
flex pay is $600 a month.
Okay.
That's, when you're looking at this isn't just Kyle, this is everybody in
Everybody.
Public Works.
Okay.
So you're not just looking at Kyle's. And the other thing you have to look at is, part of this, we take 15% of this, of the Public Works salaries and things, and then move them to the stormwater fund, because they do stormwater things like NPDS and things of that nature. So you can't take that as well, this is Public Works only. Let's see.
This is if it's $600 a month, this is only $3,300.
Kyle gets
Yeah.
$275 car allowance.
It's 600 times.
Okay. I thought it was $275. Let me tell you what the detail is. So in this budget, the community service administrator, part of his salary, as I said, is in stormwater. So if you look on the detail, it breaks each of those things out. And the car allowance is $3,300 for next year.
And where's the flex pay?
Flex pay is in insurance.
Well, it's showing up in account 541.0161 with car allowance. It doesn't make sense why they would be on the same line.
It's not, it's just.
Wait a minute. Yeah, where are you seeing that, Dave?
Page 29, third line.
Flex pay. That's a typo. The flex pay needs to come out of there.
Should not be there.
Yeah.
Okay, and Vice Mayor Gunn, you have a question?
I'm not quite sure how many car allowances we have, but at what point does it become more cost effective to lease or own another city vehicle?
That was the too.
Sorry,
No, go right ahead.
that's Dave Gaddis's question.
No.
Well, that's, you mean to purchase a car for every leasing
For lease, for use of the
Yes, a
staff.
small economy car with City of Bel Air Beach on the side of it. You can make your bank runs, you can do whatever you think you need.
Would it be stationed here, is what you're saying, all the time?
Well, another question, are all of these recipients of car allowance, are they maintaining the proper insurance that will keep us from being sued? And say if they get in an accident?
Well, we have our personal insurance.
Indemnify the city though.
Yeah, I think it's different whenever you're in their vehicle, and they have to maintain their own insurance at a higher level than what standard insurance policy would be.
Illinois insurance companies all auto non-owned, you have to buy, my company has to buy for your driving on my house. Pay extra. I pay extra.
You pay extra, okay. But at our company, we require a higher level, I think it's 300,000. And then, there's something else I was gonna add to that, if it was another stipulation. I can't remember what it was now, but that was the main thing, was that, we.
Insurance stipulation.
Yeah, we just try to make sure that it can't come back on us if they get in an accident in their own vehicle while doing something for us. And our insurance company actually requires that. Oh, the other thing was to make sure that if they are driving their own vehicle, they also have to have a clean driving record. Otherwise, they're at risk, and your insurance company will come back on you for that also. So these are just things to consider, because we always want to reduce risk as much as possible whenever we're dealing with these cars. Possibly the rental car or the lease would change a lot of that, but not all of it. We would still have to make sure that everyone's driving record was clean.
So that brought up that following one, the rentals and leases, that jumped 42.9%.
That what?
Rentals and leases, since we're talking about vehicles, jumped up 42.9%. That's 541.0440, line item there.
That is 541,440.
So we do lease vehicles?
No, this
Those
is,
are just
no.
specialty vehicles?
no, this is rental of mainly equipment. Like, we have to change, a good example is changing the batteries for the streetlights if we have an outage on in BEI. We have to rent something because we don't have the equipment to get up there. Well, no, it's a lift usually.
And
It's
then
not.
they trim trees, the guys.
Trim trees,
rent
things of
over
that nature. Yeah, that's just rental equipment.
Yeah, just confirm, I mean, a 50% increase over a year or something.
It seems higher, but at least it's not a
It's
placeholder.
only $5,000 for rental equipment, that's not much.
Yeah.
No, because the rental equipment, just to rent the lift for a week, Kyle, or for a day, is like $700.
It's like,
Huh?
I think about $200-300 per
Plus
day.
the delivery.
Oh yeah, you get about $150 each way delivered.
Yeah.
So these funds are actually I saw disaster response, so these are pre-FEMA payback? I mean, are we getting any, are there any funds available from the state or local counties that may be able to assist in some of this, like disaster supplies, emergency response? If those are used, wouldn't they be billed against FEMA during an emergency, and then FEMA later on pays us back?
Okay, where are you at now?
I just went down to 453.
Just for the sake of organization, can we continue moving downward, not jumping to the bottom? Because there's other things ahead of it and kind of expedite.
Okay. What's the question now?
But just go back to whatever the mayor said where we should be at. I was out of line.
We're still on Public Works. Okay.
Yeah, we're at Public Works, and I think we just discussed rental and leases, and the only reason why I stopped was because I had something about fuel. But someone else may have something higher up on the list. I'm just trying to go down the list rather than jumping all around. Go ahead, Mike.
No, go back to you.
Okay, fuel check.
Tree cleaning.
Or, I'm sorry, not fuel check, but operating, let's see, where is that here?
Operating supplies,
Operating supplies, is
it's
that fuel?
541, 520. And that includes fuel, hand tools, herbicides, irrigation.
Okay, so how can, with the recent cost increases in fuel, how can the budget be almost exactly the same? Are we not spending that money this year?
No, we're spending it, but what we've got estimated in the next year's budget is about $3,500 increase.
It's just, we didn't see this coming whenever this budget was set, and it was set at 21,000, and now you're only asking for $250 more.
Right. At this point, that's all we're asking for.
They
Well,
proposed 21, but only spent 16, so they're saying, okay, there was a cushion there already. So that's why it's just going.
That was 2 years, or that was last year, and we're not even, well, we're almost, okay, yeah, I see where you're going with this.
You know, just so you're aware, a lot of these things, we don't just go out and spend the money because you give it to us.
I understand.
We've never done that at all. And, I mean, there are increases in fuel, there are increases could be in the fertilizer program.
And that's the burden area for credit card use. Fuel.
Right.
That's the number one, car should be charging a credit card.
So,
Right, Mr. Zabel, you were discussing emergency response supplies.
Oh, yeah, the emergency response supplies. Normally, items like that, consumables during an emergency, FEMA can, repay some of the expenditures.
They do.
So is that counting the reimbursement, or is that totally never to be seen again, $4,800?
What we have to do is we have to, as an example, that money's out there for sandbags and sand, and we budget for that. Now, if there's no hurricanes, we don't spend it, but FEMA doesn't reimburse for sand, and they don't reimburse for sandbags. What we do, as an example, I'll use the hurricane in 2017. The city that year spent about $125,000 overall. We got reimbursed about $120,000 of that money. That was for debris removal. We lost the roof on the house back here. We lost all our signs in the city. Pretty much, they were popped in half. If you lived here, you remember that. Let's see.
No money back for sand or sandbags, right?
No, they didn't give us any.
But you've not increased the budget.
No, we're not increasing the budget.
and Lynn, if it's not a named storm and there's no damage,
You're not
any
getting
reimbursement.
anything.
You're only getting reimbursement when it's a named storm and you've got an event here.
Right.
What's sand and sandbags supposed to be an average?
That's a load of sand cost now.
Forget it.
I should know that. I bought a lot of it.
From the 2021.
We're losing what we
It's
got.
got-
That'll-
Was a year of low to sand and that, was probably what that was.
We need library cards in
Yeah.
Our new standard of
It would
measurement.
be helpful before we have our next meeting, we used to hit this, but we get a kind of budget review and update of where we're at and how much have we spent,
We can do
So
that.
to get some financials so we can compare, so we're not sitting here on what's good. If we can at least look at what we've spent to date and compare it to this budget, maybe we can just get an analysis of the
Yeah, we can give you,
actual versus budget.
I'll call it an income expense statement. It'll show you.
It's gonna be a busy week for you, isn't it?
Well, that's just the
That off.
accounting firm, and
Yeah, well, with the budget and the audit, I will tell you, I was very frustrated with the audit this year because every other year, that audit has been finished by March. That auditing, Salt Marsh had a lot of problems with personnel, so they asked for a 60-day extension. That was May. And we didn't get the audit till June.
Well,
It's very,
that's the problem, is you can't really gauge where you're at without all the evidence.
that's right.
That's the problem.
Yeah. So we're,
But staffing's a problem everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
It wasn't Salt Marshes.
it wasn't Salt Marshes. It was the issue that the girl that used to come to our meeting, Janine, she left, decided, oh, I'm leaving, and that was in, I want to say, like 2 weeks before it was supposed to be ready. She left the company. They had a lot of problems this year.
It would be cool if every time a service or a company wasn't able to deliver, that we got a break on our cost.
Yeah.
Because it seems like everyone is charging you the full price regardless.
Right.
Maybe we should adjust our contracts to match performance-based contracting.
There you go.
Right, Mr. Gunn?
Okay, the next,
Wait, I have a question about capital outlay. Are these savings plans the 8,000 and the 14,000?
yeah, you're going to see the capital outlay on page 31.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Parks and Rec, there's a little bit there, but not anything of any consequence, really. So if you go to
Before we
page,
continue, would anyone like a break?
I'll second it, just to do it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't ask.
Recording stopped.
All right, we're back, and I appreciate everyone giving me a break. And I would like to add to what Mr. Handick said. We're not seeing financial data published on the web anymore. It's very little of it. And all of these documents should be online, even though they're large. We should be able to go and download them, because it doesn't take long. And they're already electronic, so let's get them thrown online. And if you go
Find
and
anything on that
if you go to the website right now and go to finance and look at the documents that are available for download, there's so much stuff missing that really it should be part of our public record, so we're not having to scrounge to find it, because I don't want to keep up with tons of paper for the rest of my life.
Well, I was on this website today for the meeting for Thursday. Is it at 11 p.m.? The special council meeting for city manager.
Mayor,
Yes.
all meetings, every single meeting, no matter what kind of meeting it is, goes till 11 p.m. Because if I put 6 o'clock, anticipate at a time, that's when it'll drop off the website.
As long as the start time is correct,
Yes, sir.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yes, sir.
And I noticed that the calendar invites, they spill on top of each other, like today.
Yes.
There's a conflict, but that's all right, as long as the start time is
So
right.
it's at 6 p.m. Thursday, or?
Yes, yes, Thursdays is 6 p.m.
What's Thursday?
These meet on personnel.
It's not been published yet, because we're waiting for some detail, some feedback from the council, but everyone has the calendar, and it shows that date as we're meeting. So it's just not been sent out on for our electronic calendars yet. Okay, where are we at, Mr. Reeves?
31. Okay, on 31, these are proposed capital program expenditures. They're basically savings accounts until we get to a point where we need to replace something. Or as an example, example, the exterior painting of City Hall, we put money aside every year instead of having a big budget number in 1 year.
I did have a question with that, which is relatively large. Looking at that item, beyond, on one you have beyond FY 2027 for 9,000, yet over here it just said FY 2027 $3,000. I mean, difference between.
No, that's the collection. Right now, we don't anticipate having to paint the exterior of City Hall for over another 5 years.
So that beyond.
That's, the
Accumulate.
beyond is accumulation. When the next budget comes out, that number will drop to 30,000. It just, what that beyond number is, what the final cost will cost us. As an example, if you go down to the Zmore, it's got 9,000 saved in prior year. It's got 6 more thousand. The final number is 15,000.
Okay.
On the same page. The only thing that's really is like the beach access improvements. We have a savings account. Last year, we spent $50,000 on the dune walkovers. We got $50,000 from Pinellas County.
Okay, no, I understand that, then I am confused. Your total of 42,000 on the detail page should match that total on exterior painting of City Hall. It should be the same, 33,000.
On what page?
Okay, I'm looking at page 32 and 31. 32 is the detail about the painting of the community center.
Oh, yeah,
And you're showing a total of $42,000, yet you're saying total of $33,000 on the previous page.
yeah, okay, that's a good find. We'll get that corrected.
Okay, I saved some money.
So which one is correct?
The top one is correct.
31, page 31 or 32?
31, because it's about 50,000 to paint this building. Let's see this. I don't know how that happened. You see where it's at, Kyle?
Yeah,
Actually, what it
it's like you're
says,
missing the beyond column.
it says beyond 2027. That's why it goes up to 42,000.
It shouldn't, he was using the totals, the total should match.
No, they should match. As an example, the carpet, you go to the next one, it matches. The next page.
Yeah, that's when
Yeah, every sheet-
15,000 Zemo, that's what way.
Every sheet should match the total number together. So we'll go back through those and verify that make sure they're matching. Going down, some of the other pieces of equipment, like the John Deere tractor, we just bought that probably 3 years ago. So it's got a 20-year life cycle, so it's broke out for 20 years from now, or probably 17 now. The truck and the small truck and the large truck, that money is to replace them, and they're 10-plus years old if we need to. Some of yous were on council when we had the little, that truck was,
Rangers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it was
In bad shape.
in bad shape, and it was probably 14 or 15 years old
Yeah.
when we finally got rid of it.
I'm starting to go through these, you got quite a few errors. I mean, the budget on the buoys, same thing.
Did it drop? Okay.
It's,
Thanks for the catch. We'll get
Yeah,
that cleaned up.
Okay, well,
It's-
while we're...
the summary page is missing the beyond
Yeah.
whole
That's
column.
what I'm seeing, because that beyond number
Yeah.
looks like a compilation of multiple years.
Yeah.
So
I
it's just
think it
gonna,
would help
Makes
if
sense.
you, if you notated
That makes sense.
what the hit year is, target year on here, so we can. you know,
Out to the side of that, maybe put some.
Yeah, I think
No,
we
I
could put the
agree.
hit date on here when it hit, so that we don't have to sit here and try to do the mental math.
Well, now that, of course, we expect this, but knowing that changes are coming, I think we discussed this last year, there's no date or rev number on these pages. So if this gets near one of the other ones, it'll contaminate it. We won't know what's what. So any corrections, the new documents we receive, I'd like to see dates
Put on the bottom. Yeah.
on every page.
In red, if possible.
Okay, the next page we'll go to is the capital projects fund expenditures, which is on page 46. And those things, we've got money set aside for things like, we had money a couple years ago for tennis courts, the boat ramp, that's currently being done, so it's going to drop off, it'll go away. There's nothing in next year's budget. We've got a savings account for Morgan Park for the resurfacing of the parking lot there. And there, behind that, there is a sheet with the out years, and we'll go back through those to make sure they're all correlated.
I talked to you earlier about adding small kayak floating piers, and I don't seem to see these anywhere mentioned.
We didn't, we're putting that money in docks.
Oh, it's under docks?
Yeah. Because that's what it would be. It would be under.
Look at it, citywide, city and
Yeah, so, at this point, something that I really want to talk to you about is Gulf Boulevard beautification. At your seat tonight, you remember a couple months ago, Duke gave us new numbers, and I went back to them arguing that I thought they were too much, and did we get the credits? And they've given us an updated number for the 2 phases. As an example, phase 1, which is through Causeway, it went down $206,000. So I know at BDI we got some credits back that was like, I want to say $100,000, and that's how what we spent to run it all the way to 22nd Street at the time. So at this point in time, the city, let's see, is it under here? Right now, through this current year, we've got 1.3 million.
How much?
1.3. We're going to get another 900,000.
Be clear, these are the 2 letters from Duke Energy
Yeah.
you're referring to? Okay.
Yeah. I gave you a copy of the old letter to show you that, hey,
Here's the other letter.
they corrected there and gave us some credits, so that's a positive thing. So,
You got 1.3, what was the second number you said?
$930,426 we'll get in the next fiscal year, which totals about 2.2 million total.
The 1.3, does that include the stormwater that we moved over? Stormwater money that we were going to put towards?
No. This is just for underground.
She's talking about 800,000.
Yeah, right. the money-
That's from the Fed, though.
No, we're not talking about the fair. I'm talking about
Right.
just Gulf Boulevard underground.
You know, you said you were short in the budget and we we're going to move some money over to
Oh,
this.
okay. We were going to take some, what the CAC recommended was take some of the stormwater money
Right.
in future budgets and move that over to do the whole project. We're still about $900,000 to $1 million short.
How can you use stormwater funds to?
No, we're not going to touch the stormwater. What I'm saying is, what they recommended was to take the $800,000 that we're getting from the American Rescue and feed that into the stormwater fund and not take money from the reserves and put it in the stormwater fund and use that for the underground.
So we're taking the storm.
I
so we're
understand,
not touching
just
the
borrowing, and again, don't touch it.
Yeah. But we're still 900,000 short.
Now, how much of, okay, we're 900,000.
And, we had this
reserve.
discussion.
Just explain we're only 100,000 if we do that move of stormwater funds.
No, you're.
Because you said it was 800,000 you're getting from the,
American Rescue.
right,
We're getting 800,000. Yeah, okay. I see what you're
right.
saying,
So
Jody.
you get
now.
800,000 from American Rescue. We're going to pull 800,000 out of the money that's in reserve for stormwater and replace it with the 800,000 we get from American Rescue. Then
We're another 100, yes.
right, so we're only short $100,000.
That American Rescue money, is that the COVID money that was available for?
Yeah.
question was, again, back to that conference, that people were going, hey, we got loads of money from all these, haven't you applied for it yet? So I'm assuming we have applied?
No, we don't, you didn't apply. It was like a,
It's kind of like that child tax credit you didn't ask for.
Joe Biden, the child that did it, that's for you.
it was a, so, just to clarify, the Gulf Boulevard undergrounding, between the money we're getting from Bel Air Shore and our money, we've got about $4 million, okay? At the time, our original number, it was about $900,000 short based on the cost. They went up a little bit, but not as bad as the second dish that you gave us and said, well, you know, for first through Causeway, it's going to cost you $1,335,000. Now they're down to $1,129,000. Now, that's providing the supplies, and that's not providing the person that does the underground boring. We would sub that out separately, which is another $700,000 roughly for the first phase. I haven't got a number for the second phase since we got these new numbers. What I would suggest that we will be able to jump off the, to my understanding, and Randy probably knows this, Indian Rocks Beach did a RFP for underground services, and it was awarded to utility consultants. And in speaking to them, we should be able to use that contract and jump off that and be, use the same contract, so the numbers stay the same. These Duke numbers, based on this, are good until December 11th. Okay. For now. I haven't got the final total numbers for utility consultants, but I've got the preliminary for the first phase, which is about $700,000 for them too.
Do you believe that we can have the entire package, if anything, the final numbers prior to certain dates that will get this into this budget cycle?
That money's budgeted in there regardless, the 900 is from the county. Because it's kind of a, you pay the bill and send the invoice in and they give it back to you. So it's like a short-term loan to pay for the bill. The county's real good about reimbursing that. I mean, everything that we've ever got reimbursed is usually within a month after we've spent money. So that's a decision that's going to have to be made pretty soon. If you want to start phase one, and like I said, if the city wants to do the whole project to complete it, then the city's going to have to take some of that reserve money out because there's only $4 million from the county. So that's what I wanted to bring you up to date. And we've got a report that we have to give to the county. What I recommended to the county is I want to roll over $1.3 million to next year, so in October you can start phase one.
Councilmember Shirley?
It's a question, but how did we go from 2.2 million available to 4 million? You said.
It's because you're going to get another 930,000.
Which brought us to 2.2 million.
Okay, then the next year you're going to get another 930,000.
So in 2023, we'll get another 900,000.
And the next year you're going to get another 930,000. It's a 5-year program.
So they would reimburse us over those out years if we went ahead and did the full and did it now.
Well, that's a question we probably would want in writing, that they would say yes if we went ahead and paid for all and did it. But if not, I know what some of the other cities are doing. They're doing it in phases. And that's why I had it broke out in 2 phases.
It would be substantially cheaper to do it all at once, but we would have to dip into the kitty.
Yeah, you'd have to have, through next year, you'd probably have to take 75% of your reserves to do it.
Vice Mayor Gunn?
We've talked about ideas on reprogramming or hurricane disaster. I mean, we're way over on the specs by the state, the specs for Florida Beach, we're way over that stuff. And maybe it's time to reevaluate that stuff. The question I had was, what's the decision? Where's the decision point? If this is good till December 11th, let's back it up. Where's the decision point for, and we need to make a decision here whether we move forward with this or not?
Well, I think as soon as you come up, the sooner the better, because as an example, if I'm talking to Mark Porter in the morning, actually, to get some updated numbers. If he gives me a number today, his number may only be guaranteed for 2 or 3 months. You know, part of me says I would probably commit to phase 1 because we have the money already, and work on the issue with Mark, because realistically, the project wouldn't start until next fiscal year anyway, because of the timeline that Duke took. I mean, you're really familiar with it, Dave's familiar with it. The timeline that Duke took from the time we committed to them to the time that the supplies arrived to the time that we were able to get the conduit and everything. Because they were providing all that. We just have to bury it.
Is there a grace period for that December 11th?
And what?
A grace period? We had one last time where, they had some.
No, there's no grace period.
And that's chiseled and granted.
Yeah, there's.
So for all intents and purposes, it's July now.
Yeah, you need to think about, you know, do you want to tell Duke, bring us a contract for the first phase, which they will do. And of course, based on the last time around, it took them a few weeks to get that back to us. And then at the same time, be working on this situation with utility consultants about
Drilling.
their boring.
Now, they haven't given you a number for phase 2 yet?
No, just phase 1.
Did you ask them for it, just so we have a complete picture?
Yeah.
So who's the corporate memory and expertise in-house that's going to kind of develop a project plan and outline it for this body to make an informed decision based on, we need some assumptions and stuff like that, but I mean, where's that going to come from in the next 4 months? Yeah, I'm getting that reserve salute here, yeah.
The what?
Reserve salute. Yeah, I would have.
Hey. Well, whoever your city manager is the person that's going to have to deal with this. Let's be realistic, you know.
Was that the sort of thing maybe?
Unless you want me to move back down here for a period and take care of it.
Or you could just hang on and see.
Sorry, approved already, go ahead.
Does Mark Porter have the expertise to take on a project like this, to come up with a project plan and give us a informed?
Oh, no, I'm comfortable, very comfortable. When we did the undergrounding, you know, now, whoever the city manager is going to have to be involved in this. Because there's numerous things that have to be done. First of all, we'll just take phase 1. There's some easements that's got to be obtained from some property owners, because that means there's going to be some equipment, because there isn't the right-of-way on Gulf Boulevard, like there was with Bellevue Estates Island. And we did that on the west side already. You know, we went down, talked to the property owners, whoever it was, whether it was a condo or a homeowner. We even talked to the people in Bel Air Shore about it, and they gave us easements to put equipment on their property. So it's the same process. And Duke will, once we get a contract with them, they will provide those easements. Now, they used to have a person that helped us do that. I don't know that they have that anymore, because they've kind of changed how they do it, but they'll give us the easements. And I have talked to Mark about it, because the girl that helped, Leanne Haley, that helped with the easements on the other side, she doesn't work for Duke anymore, she works for Mark. So that's a benefit for Mark to help out with that.
So in a sense, this is where we may have backed ourselves into a corner with electing to do it ourselves. Is that we may not necessarily have all the expertise unless you're here with us, or at least guiding us in the right direction. There's no owner of this project.
Well, no, the city manager is the owner. That's a fact of life.
Well, as it stands right now, that's the way it's supposed to be. But whoever it is going to be walking in midterm of a project that we're trying to make happen.
Well, any city manager is going to walk into projects. That's just that's a fact of life. Whether you want to or not, if you're going to be the city manager, you're going to end up, especially in this community because we're so small, you're going to end up in those projects. Whether you started them or you got to finish them. That's just the way it is.
Thank God.
So with 4 to 5 months to mobilize on this and commit, what's the level of confidence in two different scenarios? One, we just do phase one. That's kind of a no-brainer. We could probably whip that one out pretty quickly within that time frame. If we tried to do the entire thing, the level of confidence in succeeding is pretty low, as I've seen. I mean,
Well, and the reason I say that is because the money that's available from the county is only given to us in year increments. It's not given to us as a big lump sum. You know, we did try to go that route with, the county went to Duke Energy and everybody and said, hey, I want you to give me a price to do it all. Well, unfortunately, the county only came up with $35 million, and that's pretty much the same amount that was given in Penny 3. And we used a good amount of our Penny 3 money, getting rid of cross wires, getting cable wires down, things of that, which unfortunately is still in progress at this other end with the cable company. But this is just, you know, me looking at crystal ball, and I'm going to tell you, there's no city that's going to complete everything undergrounding with the money that was given.
The money they're giving.
It's not going to happen. And I would expect the beach mayors would do what they did last time. They went back to the county and said, hey, and that's how we ended up with another $35 million. And it was split up, because I know for a fact Indian Rocks Beach is only going, I want to say, like maybe half the city, you know, coming north. Because that's all
They may not be willing to give any extra, considering that we're about to ask them for beach nourishment.
Well, this comes out of the penny money. Beach renourishment money is a TDC thing. It's completely different.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, the same people are voting on that.
Yeah, but the other thing that I look at is the residents or the population in the community throughout the county is the one that votes for the penny.
True.
And so when they update the penny, which will be, let's see, if this is probably in 23, they'll try to adopt what I call penny 5. This is penny 4.
They also should, rather than making it the same every year, they should be adjusting to the inflation because they're collecting on inflation.
Understand that, but that's, you know, that's how it's, they put it. A penny is one thing, 2 pennies might mean we're not, no vote, you know, kind of mentality. So that's how, I mean, having lived here for 20 plus years,
No,
that's,
I'm not proposing a penny raise. What I'm saying is they're collecting more pennies because more dollars are being
oh,
spent.
yeah. I'm not debating that. I'm not debating that. But the beach renourishment money is in the TDC really. Unless the county decides, hey, we got an excess penny here, so let's use it for something else. But right now, that's not the stipulation. So, like I said, moving forward, after we get the numbers tomorrow, or have that discussion with Mark and get a little better feel for the phase 1, and I'll ask him for, to project out phase 2. I would suggest the council moves forward with phase 1, start the process.
Vice Mayor.
I'd like to ask Kyle, because he's going to be a resident expert in this and obviously be up to his eyeballs in this project. You got any thoughts on this or recommendations?
I mean, I believe I could handle it, filled in with what information he's given me, and I believe that definitely starting with phase 1 would be the one to go with, but also given, I mean, we could analyze if, you're gonna try to pay it all up front and then see where you end up with how much reserves you have left, and we can probably draft it out so you can look at the numbers, consider it in the time period, but then on top of everything else we're trying to accomplish.
Where does phase 1 begin and where does it end?
It ends at Causeway, starts at 28th Street, basically the entrance to the city. And the west side is done, so it's the east side that we're doing. The west side, the electric is all done. The only thing that's left on the west side is Spectrum. And unfortunately, we're at the, how do you say it? It's a utility, we're at their beck and to get them to do something.
Yeah, possible.
Go ahead, Mr. Zane.
Yeah, possible. We need a way to adequately address this to the citizens so they understand. Right now, I'm having problems. I mean, just trying to put it all together, and I know I'm sitting here, a citizen is not. We need something put up on our website going, here's the current status. If this contract gets placed, if it does go into place, it will do the following. And here's the map from X to Y on this side of the street. They can visit, they need visuals.
Yeah, but this money can only be spent for underground.
I understand.
Mr. Goodman.
I would propose that this is the perfect place where we task Kyle to undertake this and give us a briefing and a recommendation and scope out this project and say, okay, this is what's doable, this isn't doable, this is the level of confidence we can do this phase, and this is how we fund it, this is how far we can get, and give them a project deadline for when to brief us on this thing.
It's also known from the last meeting that the next budget meeting, you will be the interim city manager, so you'll be sitting at this table.
Right.
Okay.
Not quite yet.
So I just wanted to give you those updates on the undergrounding. Like I said, I would suggest going forward with phase 1 and get as far down, like the other cities are doing, get as far down Gulf Boulevard as you can get.
And these prices just came out.
This, the last, she emailed this June 11th.
And the problem with I move forward on this, copper is so expensive right now, and it's not going to maintain its value. It's going to drop. I think there'll be a savings if we wait. Just get phase 1 done. I mean, copper's trading so high right now, and it's all the materials on this is the most costly factor.
Oh yeah, that is, she did tell me that.
So
Consideration for Shirley, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious on that, and I know I asked this question a lot. So, excuse me, but I can't remember. The debt service.
The debt.
When is the building paid?
building has got 3.5 years,
How many?
3.5.
3.5 years. Why in 2020, the budget year 2020, we had the actual of 669,000, and now we only have budgeted 283.
For debt service.
Is that Belmar Beach or the Belmar Beach Islands on that?
What do you,
What page you
On
on?
page 46.
okay.
Sorry, I jumped ahead, I skipped forward.
46 at the bottom.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, now the debt, the building, technically, the building debt service is 160,000. Okay?
Is the
And-
balance?
Uh,
The balance, 160,000.
no, it's 160 per year. That's the plan.
Okay.
Okay. So, right now, it's about 3.5 years. We got to pay it off.
Okay, I thought we were less than that. I don't know why, I thought we were 2.5.
I did,
She was asking, so why was it so high in 20 to 21, the 572,000?
It was twice the amount.
Oh, that's because I paid $300 and some thousand dollars down on BEI.
Yeah, the building is still there.
Oh, it wasn't the building, okay, gotcha.
That was added to the building.
It was,
No.
this is
No.
just debt
Me-
service, and I just assumed.
I gave the undergrounding project for Bellevue Estates, we had projected 2.2 million. When all was said and done, we got how we did it. We ended up getting a better price from Duke. We got some credits, and we did the boring ourselves. So once a year, you can make a payment to the bank prior to May 1st on that bond, and you can reduce it. Well, last year, I made I want to say $300 and some $1,000 payment. And then I gave back, I forget how many thousand, to the people that prepaid. So the project ended up like 1.8 million. So we gave all that money back and paid the debt down. So what happened, we were paying 100 and, I think it was, I don't want to say the exact number, but the debt service now is down to something like 112,000 a year on the BEI.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 112.
Okay.
And that's debt and interest. So that interest together with what we paid for the city hall. Because you only pay the principal on the BEI bond in May, you pay the interest in November and May.
So what do we think that the balance due on the mortgages for the city building?
3.5, 480. 560
560?
roughly. I can get you the number.
Yeah.
You want that? I want to say it's 560.
What was the original?
Three, and pay off the 5.
3 million.
3 million, you couldn't do it, we have all this money in reserves, we couldn't take it off because there was penalties to pay on it.
Yeah, there was the penalty at the time was,
Can't wait till we don't have to hear about it again.
uh,
I can't wait till we don't have to hear about this building again.
Our mortgage bonfire?
Yeah, big party.
Right out there.
well, that's going to put 160, actually,
Right.
more like 200 right back into the
Pay raise, man.
Yeah, but still, burning mortgage right out there.
Yeah, that could be. Okay. Let's go to page 47. 47. This is a little, more of the synopsis, the things where we save for, how we save things up so we have, when we have time to replace it. As an example, the bitumen roof, we're at 33,000. That roof estimate is $58,000. To replace the air conditioner here is estimated $150,000.
Hey, real quick, just admin note, same problem occurred here as before. He had shed 93,000 minus the 58K.
Okay, yeah, I'll go back and fix,
On that HVAC, briefly, I understand you're changing over R22 to R410. For anybody that's the refrigerant charge inside, you're saying to improve efficiency. Are we claiming operating savings right now, or we're just leaving it, the operation of the HVAC kind of the same cost?
same cost.
Okay. I mean, if the savings happen, great, if not,
Yeah.
we budget.
Have we gotten a final word on the generator funding?
Kyle, have we received any more from generator people?
Nothing more.
Nothing
no.
still?
No, we're still on the list. There again, if we're fortunate to get that, we're only going to be spending $60,000 for the generator. Yeah.
Because we had talked about that earlier, well, the mayor did during the elections about providing a safe AC place for people.
Right.
Power outage.
And what about the playground equipment? Has that decision been made yet?
We're going to bring something, well, I'm not going to, but Kyle is going to bring something to the council. He's got the cost, and you're going to do it the July meeting?
July.
Yeah, he's going to bring that to you to either say replace it or don't do anything.
Is there a placeholder in here?
No,
Well played, sir.
no, there's no placeholder.
Okay,
It's about 25,000 roughly, give or take a few pennies, right?
Well, Miracle was lower,
Okay.
yeah, but I'll get them together.
Yeah, because we got 2 or 3 quotes. But these are off a state contract, so we can just, the council can approve that. You see, like I said, the Morgan where we're saving. Something that we've added is paving the walkways. We've added that to start a savings account to those this year.
Is there about the walking path or?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Walking path.
we've been talking about that for years.
Yeah. Bridge repairs, we did not put any money in this year's budget to add to the emergency fund. So we feel comfortable that the money that we've got set aside, if it's a repair, we should be able to take care of that. And we haven't done that for the last couple of years. So we're still doing the savings for the replacement of Harrison and 22nd Street. The $30,000 that's in the bridge is the lights that are going across the causeway. If something would happen, that's just a placeholder.
contingency, isn't it?
Yeah. If they
You said there was only one.
Okay. Okay.
And then real quick, Mike keeps bringing up that point that those numbers need to match. I don't think they do. Actually, I think it's great information that you have here. But let's take the roof, for example. You have $5,000 a year for 5 years. It's a 5-year plan. However, on that second sheet, you're telling me that obviously $35,000, there's an additional 7 years of $5,000 per year needed to get the money that you need to replace the roof, which is $93,000.
Right.
Why would you want to change that? Yeah, Mike, I don't understand why you're saying that that's confusing to you. It's actually valuable
No, I mean,
information.
we talked about that was the totals.
There's a couple that, I will say, there's a couple he's found up there. I've marked them, I'm going to go back and
Well,
look.
those were all the same thing, just like Kyle brought up. They were years beyond
Right.
2027, which is good information. So I don't want anything to change there because that's
Well, no.
telling me there's additional years.
In the first couple of instances that he brought it up, there was a mathematical error.
There were mistakes.
I don't think there was. Let's go back. Which one was it? Pick one.
It was the,
That was about 30 pages.
It wasn't.
We're just going to verify.
It was just
Yeah, just go back
The
there,
missing column.
because the roll-ups don't take into consideration the beyond timeframes.
It was beyond the time frame. That's why it was there. So that tells me there's a larger number
It's on
needed.
page 31 and 32 is where you first brought it up. City Hall.
I think the mistakes were where the
we had a breakdown of each category or each subcategory on this one particular.
Right, so it's about the carpet, for example, right? Was it carpet or was it the painting? The painting. The painting. So it's saying beyond 2027, we've got $9,000. That's 3 more years of $3,000 required in order to get the total amount of money needed, $43,000, to paint the whole building. That's what it tells me. And I think that's good information to have there. If you eliminate that column, it's...
I just need to look at those.
Think about it, because accounting-wise, you should be matching the figures, not chasing down a beyond number. Beyond number is great, you keep it in there. But you can say total net, the out years.
I see what you're saying. But I'm just going to
That's how
go
we
back
do
and
it.
check.
Then again, that's how we do the accounting. It's
Yeah, you kind of have to understand how government accounting works.
It doesn't.
You know, you have an expenditure,
Right.
just because somebody, like the county, gave us $50,000, that comes back into the general fund, but we had to spend $100 to get the
to
50.
get it, yeah.
So it's just the way government accounting is.
This is stuff we see.
I can't make it up. Okay, I was on page,
On the street light, on the...
streetlights.
causeway.
We're, actually Kyle's in the process of looking at the streetlights, and we may start replacing some at various places where the poles are not in good shape. And he's gotten some numbers from,
We mean in the neighborhoods, interior streets?
yeah, he's gotten some numbers from Duke. And we've got, did we get the final numbers from
Yes.
solar? So we need to talk about that. Because we were going to evaluate if it was better to put the solar in as opposed to as we replace it. I will tell you, the solar lights, for the most part, have been really good. The company's been good about the replacement parts. You know, the way the warranty works, they give us some replacement parts. We've had, I think, one good light arm that we had to replace.
It was the original model, it was the first
Yeah.
one we had, so.
Yeah. So, and other than that, it's been batteries and programming. I mean, I know we've got that very first light at the bridge there. It was a
The
little
oldest
hectic
one,
trying
too.
to, huh?
That's the oldest one, that was the first one. It was
Yeah.
it was on the other side of the bridge.
Yeah.
Or on the
Yeah.
both side of the bridge.
Yeah, it was put up there as an experiment to see how they worked and how we programmed it. I almost got run over a few times when we first got that. People coming out of BBI. What are you doing standing in the middle of the street? Well, I gotta get some connection to the street light. But for the most part, I think the solar lights have done well. You know, over the long term, they'll save the city money.
Did we ever follow up on the grant money that Steve Marsh sent us some information on? There's been some grant money given to some municipalities for going to the solar lighting projects.
The what now?
Steve Marsh had sent us information on some grant money that had been given to municipalities for the solar lighting projects.
Yeah, we did look into that, but that grant was gone.
Yeah, it was gone, but I mean, doesn't mean that
We
we follow.
called, I remember calling someone and asking them if they would do it again at this point.
Yeah.
They're on our, what do you want to call it, email list, we're on their email list to tell us.
See, that's part of the new business model too, is when we do bids or let contracts, we need to task the people we're contracting with to feed us information and even prepare a lot of the documents to chase green money on some of this stuff. A lot of people are doing that. You know, they build it right into the contract where if we go for solar lights, we go to the solar light company and say, what grants are out there, assist us in finding grant money for some of this. And more than likely, those people are very happy to assist you with them because it's more sales for them. So it's something we need to, it's one of the best practices we need to start building into our contract.
I agree with that. I do have a question about the street lighting program. So we still have some areas here that are dark. right now, I don't really see, what is this budget money set aside for?
It's for that and replacements. And if, as an example, I forget what street that was on, 18? There was an area,
Oh,
the residents came to us and said, hey, this is a dark area, and we went in and put a street light there. So,
I know the bridge on Harrison's really dark.
Huh?
The bridge on Harrison's really dark.
so that's something that, you know, we did the streetlight survey to look at the poles that were here to see if we need to replace them. And what the concept was to take the wood poles out and replace them with concrete if we didn't do solar.
Well, we've got some streets like Ninth, that has nothing. They have one light at the very end. They're dark. And I understand that the lines run behind the homes.
You just pull it from the, because I did try to underground that one on, I want to say it was 16th or something, and the homeowner wouldn't give me a easement.
Dude, this seems like a prime candidate for solar, because why do all the undergrounding? Why drill? Why hang wires overhead? They don't have wires now. Why clutter it up? But it's something we should definitely look into, and if we have control over, and I understand that we're collecting $50,000 a year for street lighting, well, we should have some say-so on how that money's spent, and that's a good starting spot right there. We should never have a single street in this town that's dark. And that one right there, if you're walking around, it's very dark.
And most, I'm trying to remember on Ninth, usually there's a street light in the middle, halfway down the street.
I think it's all the way down on the corner unless it's gone, or, unless it's burned out or something. I think until you get right behind this building here, there's not any
We'll look
light.
at, that may, buying individual solar price is not, what do I want to call it? Price beneficial. It's not effective. So if you're going to buy solar, and that's what we're looking at, what does that cost to put the solar in? Same situation.
We had some spares. I thought we purchased some spares.
No, we didn't purchase.
Oh, we didn't have any spares.
No.
It's battery life on that.
Well, they,
A 10-year warranty on it.
there's a 10-year warranty on it. So,
So you had to replace some already, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a big deal to replace the battery.
Yeah, no, that-
Yeah. I said, is it a heavy
We-
cost or?
The cost is renting the lift. It doesn't cost us for
The
the
battery, just bought two batteries,
10-year.
warranty.
There was a study done, and whenever they compared to the cost of using Duke, they pretty much just paid for themselves. And then beyond that, then they were free other than maintenance. So after that 10 years, they're ours, and then you just have routine maintenance on
So we would be responsible for the battery, which,
In 10 years, we'd have to buy our own batteries. But, I mean, they're ours right now.
right,
The city insures them. If a hurricane came through and knocked them over, we got insurance to,
what's the wind rating?
100 and, it's more than that, I think, 145. I mean, I've got a lot of documentation on it.
it. What I can tell you, those are the best lights we have in the city.
Yep.
They are
And
beautiful,
5
they're
o'clock in
bright.
the morning, they're still bright.
Yeah, they're working.
The only
just fine.
problem you have is if you get a light that, and the bridge one is a good example, the one to the west side of the bridge, the palm tree
Hides the shield.
hides it sometimes, and as long as we keep it trimmed, it's fine. And the other thing you can do with them, you can go up to the light and control its intensity when it is and whatever. And when we got the first test light, of course, I was kind of new at it. I ran it up to 100%.
right.
Lit up
Then
the whole neighborhood.
We had great tans.
right. But the next morning at 5 o'clock, there was no light left in it because I ran it to 100%. You know, I was still trying to figure it out.
You can program a setback in it at time,
Yeah,
and they are also, you can also network security cameras in this.
I know a lot of construction sites are using them at night now, for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, they were very, it was a good purchase.
How many do we have now?
33.
It sounded like a broken record again. If that's a priority, in the strategic plan,
Right.
that's where we started focusing on money. Right now, it's just like, okay, it's in the budget. Number 1 priority or number 5 priority?
Something you said, and I thought that should be on the strategic plan, something you asked Lynn if you put in the budget, but I didn't say it at the time, but, you know, it's just, we need to just make a list of those things.
Do we buy more library cards or do we buy more solar lights? I mean, what are the priorities here?
Well, the solar light costs about what you put in for the library card.
You get, when you go out first, right?
Okay.
Both cards, purchase.
Dock replacement and seawall, we've got a couple seawall projects that are going on right now. So a lot of that money's gonna be gone for next year. The $25,000 that's in there this year is for 7th Street. After the project, the seawall project and boat ramp is done, then that dock project will get started.
Is that expected to start this year?
Yeah. Kyle's having a meeting with, what day? Is it
I
tomorrow
gotta
or
look at my
next?
calendar. It's next week.
Okay,
Yeah.
with the contract.
I got 9.
Then, you know, I don't think we need to go over every one of the fact sheets behind it. It's pretty much there. The next section is page 68, which is the marina. There will be $1 increase in March. It's programmed in here, $1 per foot increase in March. That was set up on a 5-year program. We did one 2 years ago. We got this one, and we got one more 2 years ago. They put, that is putting back about $62,000 back into the general fund every year as profit from the marina. And the page right behind it, one of those non-residents actually own property here, isn't that right, Kyle? In the marina?
One of the non-resident, I gotta look at the list, but there's non-resident property owners,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they're classified, if they're not they don't live here, they're considered a non-resident, so they're paying a higher fee.
I don't know what you're saying, I can't hear you.
If they're, they may own property here, so, but they don't live here,
Non-residents might own property, but don't live here, but.
so they pay the non-resident rate on the marina.
So I see 4 of them.
That's it. I
Are
think
there,
there's
are they all, do they
No.
all own property?
one of them.
One of them does, we
Yeah.
have still 3 non-residents.
It's changed.
They own rental property, and they're bringing their boat and keeping it here.
Right. So,
Which is fine. I mean, I think, you know, the big deal was, to me, was making it available for residents,
Yeah.
not, they was full of
It's,
non-residents.
The only problem that I had with that was having one owner with 2 slips.
Yeah, that was an
Is
issue.
that still going on?
Deborah Zimmerman, she's still got, is it?
Oh, the agreements, yeah, but they're both under her name, but her husband, one of them is her husband's boat.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
because they own 2 properties, is that right? They own 2 rental properties, so they're
Yeah.
Well, actually, they own,
occupying 2
no, now
slips.
they still own 2.
They have 2.
They used to own 3, but they sold one of them.
Are they full?
The marina?
No, do they have boats in both of their slips?
Yeah.
And there's
Okay.
the boats, not the battery. The boats belong to them personally or the rector?
Yeah.
It's to them, but they live in Tampa.
Yeah, so.
Talking about the beach zones? Are these the same people talking about the beach zones?
Oh, that's different Tampa people.
Okay, and then on page 70, we put money aside because at some point in time, we're gonna have to redo the catwalks at the marina, and we've got a proposal that we had somebody look at the pilings, and there's some pilings that's gotta be replaced. Most of the tie poles, not so much the, some that's gotta be replaced and others that we need to wrap. So, that's a project that we're getting more quotes for.
But if they're typos, aren't they specific to that,
Huh?
that person's slip? So would
No.
that person be responsible for the typos? I mean, I see it's.
The
Not-
lift, yes, but not the tie poles. The person didn't put the tie pole in there.
So the lifts that are there are not connected to poles that are
No.
part of our guide system?
No, they're,
But if they have a lift in, why do they need a typo? Are these
We-
just floating, are these
Floating
boats in the
boats.
water?
yeah, there's some tie poles that need to be replaced or rewrapped.
We have a pole in between each dividing two slips, and then we have them extending out from that line. So there's poles that are city-owned that divide between the two catwalks, the two slips. And then they have their lift poles inside of that.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think we should look at that. I think that's something we should look at, because I don't know why I mean, if they're maintaining their lifts, we don't even need typos out there, that's.
Well, it's not everyone has a lift, and so, and the catwalks, there's a couple of them that
What
need
the
wrap.
catwalks are
Yeah.
for, because I-
But they kind of serve as the divider for
They're dividers,
the
right.
slips. So if somebody they had their lift, and then they vacated, they removed their lift, then you kind of have just open space without a divider for that next
I
slip.
know some of them have catwalks in between them too.
It's every other.
Every other.
And
Yeah.
so if you remove the boat lift and the supporting poles, then you still have divider poles that will serve as wet slip in that one slip. Did I say that?
That's
right?
correct.
Yep.
Okay, and then the next page is the stormwater fund, which is on page 75. And we're projecting to collect about $175,000. Last year wasn't really it was the first full year of it, so we were a little shy of that, so we need to see where we end up this year on the revenue. We charge 15% of the salaries and wages into here for the public works people that do things in the stormwater fund. And then if you go down to the stormwater system project for next year, it is $498,680. And we did increase some of the estimates because we were concerned that with the escalation of that project that just happened, that those could go up. But until you bid them, you know, the price could change.
Well, I was going to ask, what is the driver that would cause this body to reevaluate stormwater fees?
The what?
What would drive us to say, hey, we need to reevaluate the stormwater fees? Is it going to be on a frequent basis, every 5 years or something? Or do we take a look at the economy and say, hey, you know, we got some infrastructure projects due, costs of materials are going up, it's time to sit down and reevaluate our stormwater fees. Are we there?
Well, I think you're only two years into the stormwater fee. I don't know that I would be looking to increase it that quickly. Now, a couple more years, yes, you may want to increase it. And you'd be doing basically the same thing you did last time with the study. You'd have to hire a consultant to come in and do the stormwater fee. And then the council would have to vote to approve it or not. If you remember, when they did the original one, if we'd have charged everyone the actual stormwater fee, it would have been $71 a month. And we opted to try to offset some of that expense.
And that was the key, was it was an offset. And
Right.
So unfortunately, we don't have a hard target to to gauge that against? Was it a specific percentage, or was it just a number we pulled out of the air?
Well, we did hire.
We hired a consultant to do
I
it.
know that we did everything right.
Right.
And we were approved to do this, but is there a moving target that we can?
I think when Lynn and I talked about it, we were trying to at least have enough income to maintain.
And that was the plan, it was for maintaining.
Maintenance, not for repair, not these big expenses.
Right, long,
Exactly
Yeah.
the way it was presented to the public. which-
that's really what it's for maintenance and repair. But it's offsetting some of that cost.
Well, I think what Vice Mayor Gunn is asking, is there some sort of metric that we follow that says, okay, it's time for an increase or a decrease? Or did we paint ourselves in a corner to where it cost a lot of money to change that rate ever?
No, you've done they're gonna do another, stormwater person. It's kind of like anytime you have a rate increase, you're gonna have a consultant do an assessment on it. And they're gonna come back and give you the numbers like we did last time.
Recommendations?
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to have a regular maintenance budget and then a
Right.
capital budget. Because what I've seen is it all together here, so you can kind of pull it out and get a good general feel of what that maintenance budget looks like.
Yeah, as long as your costs remain within some boundary, you're okay, but you set a tripwire so that, hey, if it's out of control, you need to do
We
something,
need to do something,
at least review it.
right? We probably just need to have a work session on reevaluating that.
Stormwater. Okay, that's all I have. If you've got any questions, any other questions, I've got a list of things we need to go back and look at. And
So
some things you need to, really think about. Some of the highlights, I think the library reimbursement we talked about, but I think I didn't get any real consensus that you wanted to do anything more than what we were doing.
And it's true, I think just having what we spent actually
Yeah.
in the budget will help us look at those
Okay,
library.
and I'll get you those. Code enforcement, any thoughts out of the first? What you want to do? You want to keep the sheriff, reduce the hours, do something else?
Yes,
Well, I think Lynn already hit on it earlier, that, it may actually make sense to have some type of a hybrid. Like you had mentioned before that you thought 20 hours was too much. So as an example, if we reduced it to 10, and then let Laura do some of it as well, if at the end of the day that's going to save us money, and we're still getting the same level of service, then I think that's a good move.
well, as far as reducing it by that much, that may be a little drastic. The reason why I say that is because if you're investigating a site where something's going on, and there was somebody across the water they were remodeling their home, I guarantee you that officer had spent 5 hours trying to explain what it was they were doing wrong. Here's the process, here's what's going to happen to you. Bad things are going to happen for a little while, and maybe you'll have a good defense and you can work this out. We don't really know what's going to come up, and is that what we want? Do we want a hybrid situation where the code enforcement officer goes out and finds something, writes it up, and then somebody from the office goes and does the PR piece of it, where you're trying to smooth things over and make them understand this is why there was a violation, and here's what you have to do to fix it. And that's the biggest problem. That's the time-consuming part of it. You can cite somebody all day long, but most of them don't even understand what they're doing unless they're locking their door at
Well, and there are people that do that. We got several of them that, you know,
Are up. Is there a certain amount of hours that the sheriff department will say, hey, look, it's not worth our time?
no, the way the contract, it's whatever number of hours it is.
You can give the sheriff 10 hours and they'll accept it.
Yeah.
It's not irreversible, right?
Uh,
It's not irreversible.
Right.
Let's say we cut back 5 hours from now. You decide how to manage your program best. Cut back 5 hours,
It's,
perhaps.
the whole service is à la carte. You can pick whatever you want and
Yeah,
they'll work with you.
and see how it works, but I think you really need to come up with a game plan of how you're gonna manage this thing, and how you're gonna know if it's getting better.
Yeah, Kyle's gonna do it.
Say Kyle wants to, not Lynn.
Along with the,
Delegate to
Rodney,
Laura.
go home.
Exactly.
Give us a recommendation on library cards.
Yeah, I had 2 items. One was that government purchase cards,
Yeah,
and second one was car allowances, cost benefit analysis about why we pay for all these allowances when we can just lease one car and, you know, sign it out, here's the keys, go gas it up.
In the interest of time, I made a list. Can I compile a list and write it, and everybody can add on
I
to?
think we should all do that, and, I mean, we haven't even gotten to the fine details, and I had a whole bunch of items that I put tabs on just so that we could go through.
well, that's, what you know, when I met with each of you, that's what I was hoping you would do, is send me those things so we can either answer questions or get it, back to you.
Well, this is the first, we received the first draft, and I did make a lot of notes, but we, just due to time, and this was a major overview of hearing what your reasoning was for everything. Our next meeting, I think our suggestions should be reflected.
Yeah,
And,
that's what the first meeting is for you to give us feedback on what we did, and what you think could change. And that will be July 18th. That's the meeting.
Okay, so there's a big, long time between now and the 18th. That's a month, all right? And Vice Mayor Gunn brought up that we've not even looked at all of this and thrown it up against the strategic plan. So I think we should get together and hash this out a little bit and make sure that our priorities are in line with the direction we're attempting to go. And it needs to happen before this July 18th meeting.
Or at least from the lab, well, this week we have another meeting.
We have another meeting this week, and potentially, if we don't, well, let me just go through this right quick. So we have, Thursday, we have the
Personnel.
the
City manager search. There's a title
we
for
have
it.
the city manager, what did we call it, the candidate,
Special city council meeting for city manager candidates.
that's it. And so we're going to have to go through the 5 candidates that the Citizens Advisory Committee selected as the top 5.
If we did, if nobody submitted an extra candidate.
Right. So all of us have the option to add an additional candidate if we see somebody that we like that should be in that group with them. So potentially there's a possibility of having 12 candidates that we would have to prioritize. Right. So we, as a group, we're going to have to work this out to where we think this is our top candidate, this is number 2, this is number 3, and so on. Once we hit that point, then we will hand those candidates off to Patty, who will begin contacting them from the top on down until we have 4 candidates. In the event that we don't have 4 candidates, then I'm proposing that we have 3, but no less than 3. We need to have some people that we can have a Zoom meeting with and do a preliminary interview. Once we have that interview, then we'll decide the top two, and we'll call them in for an in-person interview. And then that night, we will elect the new city manager. So there's always a possibility that we may not be able to get through that list if it's 12 candidates. I'm just saying, I don't expect that to happen because it seems like the scores are doing this and then they go, where's the actual breakout? But I don't, you know, I'm still digesting all the various candidates. So in the event that we can't get through all of them on Thursday, the next available meeting, I believe, is Tuesday. So we would have to come back and wrap that up and then hand those candidates off to Patty to start doing her work. So that means that next week, or this week, we're definitely out because we're probably going to be over meeting. And then next week, if we don't have to review candidates, if we're able to complete this on Thursday, maybe we can begin that conversation. Unfortunately, it's because it's a work session, we need to give some time. So today's Monday. I think I'm going to have to look at the calendar and I'll propose a date. I'll send it out to Patty. And we'll see if everybody's on the same page and we can meet. All right. Yes, sir, Mr. Roberts.
So you mentioned 5 will be our objective on Thursday.
Well, what it is our goal is to take the 5 plus anything that we're all allowed to add
Right.
one candidate if we want to. My guess is if we add 1 or 2, it's going to be the same ones based upon what I'm seeing. So I'm thinking we're going to have 7 or 8 candidates. The goal is to narrow that down and throw out and leave 4. 4 people that we can interview by Zoom. And
So I thought we were going to have 5 to Patty.
we're going to give Patty the entire list. So we have to rank everything, all the candidates. So the Citizens Advisory Committee has given us their top 5 already.
Correct.
They automatically move over into our groups. If we add more,
Correct.
we can do that also. But either way, we may not necessarily agree with the Citizen Advisory Committee's top 5.
Don't understand.
This is where we can look at them all and go, I don't care if this score is higher or lower. I like this guy better.
How many were we going to hand over to Patty for her to make the phone calls?
We're going to give her all of the candidates that we have brought in to the group. So we've got, automatically we have 5.
Okay.
And then any more that we have, we're handing them all to Patty, and then
She's going to stop when she gets to 4, let's say, okay, we're in.
yes.
And you mentioned that if we don't get 4, 3 would be the lowest.
No, that's not
Three
true.
would be the lowest.
What's the plan B? Let's say we just start with 5. Let's say nobody adds any additions, and we start with 5.
Okay.
And Patty starts with the list, starts with number 1, goes on down. She finishes all 5, and we have 2. What is the next plan?
What the list has been the entire time is it's all been contingent, and it's a living document. So that's why you'll see updates like okay, we'll accept 3. I added that today because I got thinking, it's been a while now. It's been,
Yeah, they could have other jobs.
we may not have enough candidates. It may turn out that we automatically have 2. Well, we've just saved a bunch of time and we can move straight forward with the interviews.
For the 2?
Yeah. So-
Okay, I got the sense that you said if we didn't have 3, then that wasn't good, we're done.
No. What I'm just saying is, I'm hoping we can get 4, but 3 is acceptable if we just run out of candidates.
Right.
I'm trying to at least give us the opportunity to interview them before we bring them in, especially if they're, let's just say they're in another state or Miami or something like that. Give us the opportunity to interview them online before we bring them here.
Of course.
Because I don't want to waste their time if we don't like them.
Now, we're supposed to have also a date specific, the 22nd, to give Patty our list. Is that a week?
Yes,
Okay.
that's where you add, it's not a list. If you see one additional candidate that's not already in the top 5, then, and Mr. Gunn sent that list out.
Thank goodness, because I was struggling with that. I was trying to figure out, because I just had a running list and no one was in order.
Yeah, there's a natural breakout.
Yeah,
Yeah, yes.
thank you.
It's,
That was very helpful.
Yeah, and it's a little late, but on the agenda, it was actually going to have that list. But, so that's kind of the plan right now. I want to squeeze this in way before we get to July the 18th is my point. We need to have this just to make sure that we are in the right direction, because just like those streetlights, and that's part, that should be right there at the top. It's safety, security. So, all right, that being said, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Frank Baker. All right, Lynn Gunn, all in favor?